One of the things that you need to make sure you do is fuse everything appropriately. Now, this is all DIY kind of stuff. If you don't know what you're doing, call a professional with any of this electrical stuff, because like, you know, if any of this knowledge is misconstrued and you burn your van down, like that's super, super bad news. If you follow our schematics and our little notes, you should be just fine. But everything needs to be fused. If you've got a wire running to a battery, you gotta fuse it, because if you get some kind of runaway draw, you wanna make sure that fuse breaks and doesn't heat your wire up. So when I was talking about putting too much power through a wire, the wire heats up and catches on fire, that's essentially what a fuse does. So if you put too much power through this system, this little fuse right there, that will pop and disconnect the battery from the device, just like that, and you save your device, you save your wires, you prevent fires. So fuses are extremely important. So, give you a basic rundown. We've got our battery down here, and we have our power running all the way up to this fuse right here. Now we've got, you know, a bigger fuse. This is a 300 amp fuse, and we use A&L fuses. This fuse system is really cool. It's called a BEP system, and you can Google these. You can get them off pkys.com. We'll put these links in into the description and into these schematics. But what's really cool about this is you have these bars that connect everything, so it saves you some wiring time. They cost a little bit more, but you have your nice little shutoff in here, and then all of this stuff connects into one piece for a very, very clean looking professional installation. And inside each one of these is an A&L fuse. So from your battery, you run all the way up to your main fuse into your shutoff switch. So you want to have a shutoff switch. And the reasoning behind that is maybe you're going to be away for a while, you shut your system off, and then there's nothing that's drawing out of the batteries. Your batteries are just hanging out and waiting to be used again. And then from here, we have our first fuse, which goes to our Orion, which is your DC to DC charger. So we want to make sure this guy that is putting power into your system, if it overpowers, it trips this before doing any other damage to wires or your batteries, anything like that. Second, we have our fuse that is traveling to our fuse block. So you have a fuse for your fuses. So say all of these things are using a ton of power and you're using too much power for this one wire to handle. This fuse will pop before you create any kind of hazards. So running back down to this fuse block, every little component that is spread out throughout the van and it runs off a 12 volt is running through this system. So say again, you have a short in your lights or something like that. Instead of that power cycling through the battery and getting that wire really hot, it'll pop that fuse and your lights will turn off. So this is, again, secondary system. You need to have a fuse block with all of your devices running through a fuse block. Not only will this prevent stuff from catching on fire, it'll prevent you from damaging really expensive components like your refrigerator. These 12 volt refrigerators are not cheap, so protect those. Make sure you don't fry stuff out. Everything needs to be fused. And a lot of people ask me, well, what should I fuse this at? You need to look to see what kind of power draw that your appliance is taking, and you need to fuse appropriately from there. And that is also one of the things you need to gauge appropriately for how much power the device uses as well. So again, we'll go back through there. We'll have a chart of gauge and fuse sizes we use for specific components to kind of give you a stepping off point and get you an understanding of how to appropriately fuse and wire things. Next one over, we have the MPPT controller. So that's this guy right here. It's a smaller draw, but who knows, maybe a nuclear bomb goes off and we've got way too much stuff coming in. It's going to trip that before getting into the batteries. But again, I know some of this stuff can seem overkill, but it's just protecting stuff. You know, you never know. I mean, maybe there's too much power pushing into this. Who knows? But just fuse everything appropriately. Here we have our inverter. So we have a smaller inverter, so we're only using 4-gauge wire right here. Your inverter is a high draw appliance. Like, this thing will pull power from your 12-volt system while you're using it. So make sure that one is definitely fused. We've seen a couple people come in and they have their inverter just hardwired directly to your battery. Huge no-no. Just get a fuse in there. And if you are really, really on a budget, Amazon has a large array of cheap fuse options, but that cheap fuse option with an A&L fuse in there can save you a lot of headaches. So just fuse your stuff.